Hey everybody, welcome back to Whiskey Wednesday. This is episode 10. I don't know if you're aware of that. We've officially hit double digits. That is super exciting. Thank you everybody for tuning back in and taking this journey with us. This has been extremely fun. And like every episode, we're going to go ahead and get started with what you see here on the table. And I'm going to let you go first. Save the best for last.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm drinking Evan Williams, a single barrel vintage. I grew up with my dad drinking Evan Williams, so I'm very familiar with this whiskey. I do like this one, and it's definitely, you can see a half bottle for us means that we drink this a lot.
And today I am going to go in a very different direction, and this is Kentucky Gentleman. So this is a Kentucky bourbon whiskey. It's not exactly what most of you would consider sipping whiskey. We actually had some, my parents were here. This happened to be in the kitchen, so easy to grab. So that's what I'm going to have tonight out of this lovely plastic bottle.
But maybe we should have brought you down some Coke to mix with that.
It'll get the job done. Absolutely. So episode number 10, very exciting. And cheers to that, first of all.
Cheers.
And for the rest of you that are tuning in, what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to talk about how to choose the right horse. And there's a lot that goes into this. I think a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions, or they have a lot of ideas, especially if this is your first horse, about what that process looks like. And so what we wanted to do is share some of the common issues we see people running into with that process and give you some tips and tricks from our perspective in how to choose the right horse for you. So with that, take us away.
All right. So one of the things that I think a lot of us get into problems with when we go to look at a horse or anything, even a car, you can get into this problem, is we tend to get hung up on color and a specific type of horse. Like I only want a thoroughbred, or I only want a Mustang, or it has to be black, or it has to be a chestnut. And we tend to go see the pretty horse out in the field and we say, oh, that's the one I want. But we really should kind of go into this taking a blindfold and not looking at the color necessarily, but really evaluating whether that horse is the right horse for what we want to do. Mm-hmm. So, those are some valuable lessons that we've learned over the years. When we first met, I had two horses that were my own horses. One was a really good Colorado ranch horse that had been there, done that, trail type horse. And he was fantastic. We used to take him out on the Manassas battlefield and go riding. But my other horse that I had was a thoroughbred, off the track thoroughbred, and he was trained for a dressage. And he was not good as a trail horse.
He sucked.
He was terrible. A butterfly would scare him. But we would occasionally take him out just to give him the different scenery. But it was never really an enjoyable ride for me because the horse was always on edge, so I was always on edge. But he was what I had. Now, I didn't get him to do trail riding. I actually got him to do arena work. But, we used what we had. So when you're going to look at a horse, there's a couple of tips that we recommend. One is take the glasses off and look at a horse not just for its color. Be realistic about what you're looking for. If you're looking for a trail horse, then you shouldn't be looking at probably dressage thoroughbreds, or
so like a full-blood Friesian. We get asked this question quite a bit.
Yeah. So you have to be realistic about what you're looking for and what that horse is going to be used for. So first evaluate what kind of riding you want to do, and then find a horse that matches that discipline. Once you find that horse that matches the discipline you want to get, be realistic about what your skill level is. if you are a beginner rider, then you're going to want a horse that is suited for beginner riders. If you're a more advanced rider, then obviously you can handle a horse that's got more pep to it.
Mhm.
But be realistic about what, what level you are. And I would recommend you, maybe not making that judgment on yourself, maybe going to a trainer and saying, where do you think my skill level is? I'm looking for a new horse. What's my skill level? And they can say, look, I think you're a beginner, an intermediate beginner, or an intermediate or whatever, but this is the one you should be looking for. So that's another one.
Mhm.
Then once you kind of determine that, the next thing is go in and look at a horse objectively. Again, take the color out, take the height out, kind of take away the pretty flashy stuff and look realistically at the horse. This is where I would also recommend that you take somebody with you that can be objective. So take a vet, take a trainer, take somebody that is very knowledgeable horse wise, that can kind of give you a unbiased look at the horse, because as buyers we tend to get caught up in, oh look, isn't it pretty, and we're not always objective about what we're looking for. So take somebody with you that you trust, that can look at the horse from an unbiased objective viewpoint.
Yeah, I think that's really important. We actually see that a lot here at the rescue, where somebody that's coming out to look at one of our horses will often bring a trainer, or in some cases a veterinarian, or we've even seen somebody bring a family member that has a lot of experience and knows the adopter well enough to help make that match. And we always really appreciate seeing that. Makes us feel better that because we don't know somebody that's coming here, we don't know their skill level, we don't know their experience, so having that third party really does help, and makes us feel better as well, because one of the things that we're looking for when we're placing an animal with a person is this a good fit in all of the possible ways. So I think that's really important. And the other piece of this puzzle is your bond with the animal. Every animal, I mean, you could have 10 quarter horses out there that look identical or look very close together. They might meet your criteria, but you may not have the bond that you have, or the connection. The horse really needs you need to have that connection with the horse, and sometimes you can build that and foster it. Sometimes it just happens and it clicks, and but that is really important, because that's where the trust aspect comes in. That's where the emotional connection between you and the animal is made. Is
So
there.
to that point, visit the horse multiple times.
Yes.
So that you just don't go once. Go out several times, and go out at different times of the day. Go out in the morning, the evening, the afternoon, to really look and evaluate the horse. But also because you want to kind of look at that connection. Like, is there something that you're connecting or clicking with that horse with? And in order to do that, you really need to go out multiple times to visit the horse and spend time with it, and kind of get that connection.
Yeah, because like I think you brought up the analogy of maybe cars in the beginning of this. If you're looking for a black pickup truck, a 4x4 pickup truck, you could have 10 F-150s, and they're all going to drive pretty much the same. They're all going to have the exact same features, but 10 black quarter horses are not going to be exactly the same in any way. So I think maybe sometimes as humans we're bad about making those distinctions, and then with a very expensive purchase like a horse, you would think people would want to spend more time doing that. But sometimes it is a challenge, and I think people just get really excited about the purchase, and they want to do it and be done with it and move on. And so they cut corners,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
they don't explore all of the avenues to make sure it's exactly the right animal.
Right. So the other thing is make sure that you're, really being objective when you look at the horse. Get on the horse, ride it several times, ride it in the arena, ride it out of an arena, ride it around. Make sure that you really are getting a full feeling of what that horse is like. And again, you can tell a lot when you're getting on and riding them, whether that horse is going to be too much for you to handle, or maybe it's not enough. Maybe it's, you need a little more go instead of whoa. And that's, you're going to be able to determine that once you get on the horse's back and kind of spend some time with it. And I think that's important, why you go at different times of the day, because you want to see how the horse is going to be under saddle in the morning versus afternoon, or in the evening. So definitely make sure that you're spending quality time with the horse that you're considering for purchase, at different times of the day.
Sure. Yeah. And, to go back to choosing the right breed for what you're looking for, I kind of mentioned the full blood Frisian thing earlier, and we have had more than one request for our full blood Frisian Kaya, where somebody wanted to adopt her because they were just looking for an occasional trail horse out, out behind the farm. And that is just not the right horse for that. And so we actually had to intervene in that case to say, we don't feel that that's the right fit. That's really not where this horse belongs. And if that's what you're looking to do, we have other options that are actually a better fit for that. But Kaya is really not the best fit for that kind of riding,
Right.
if that's what you want to do. So there's so many breeds out there, and I, some people do tend to get locked in. We've heard so many people that even looking at Kaya have said, I've always wanted a Frisian, and it's almost always because of a movie or some iconic horse that maybe exists in either fictional or non-fictional literature somewhere, and they're looking to recreate that. And while there are times and places for those things, if this is your first horse, Frisians are a ton of work. And
Yeah,
that's the other piece of this, right? Is not all horses require the same level of care and work, and Frisians require a little bit more than your average quarter horse does.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a very good point. So once you've, found the horse, you've gone through the other steps. The next thing is um, getting a PPE, which is a pre-purchase exam. I think those are vital, no matter whether it's an adoption through a rescue or whether it's a purchase through a private owner. Getting a PPE is essential. And if you have the money to buy a horse, you should definitely have the money to get a PPE, because a PPE is really going to give you again, an unbiased professional, a veterinarian, that's going to come out and do an evaluation and let you know if there's any hidden things that might be there that you don't know about. And you should always ask for all veterinarian records related to that horse. So make sure that you have a very clear history of that horse. Now, with rescues, we don't always have 10 years worth of records. We have only the records that we have since the horse came into our rescue. In a few cases, we do have records that we have prior to that. Midnight is a good example.
Yeah.
Because Midnight was an owner surrender, and he's only 5 years old, we actually have all 5 years worth of his records prior to him coming to us.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case. But you should always ask for full veterinarian records and get a PPE, and make sure that there is nothing hidden that you don't find out about a month after you get the horse home. So take the time to invest and spend the money on getting a PPE, and really make sure that you're evaluating those records. If it's a rescue situation, whatever rescue records are available, I would recommend that you send those records to a veterinarian and ask them to give you an evaluation of that horse and whether the horse is sound. Again, I mean, if a rescue is reliable, if they're an upstanding rescue, they shouldn't have a problem with giving you these records, and certainly shouldn't have a problem with you having a vet evaluate those records.
Yeah, that's a huge red flag. If you ask for a PPE and you're denied that, or they discourage it, or say they're not going to allow it, that should be a huge red flag. And no matter how much you think you want that horse, you should think twice. I'm not saying that you have to necessarily walk away, but that is a very critical step. And I think any seller that is going to deny you that certainly may have some issues.
Yeah.
And you should really think long and hard about pursuing that if they're discouraging you from doing it.
You really have to be realistic about what you're looking for. Try to step away from saying, oh, like that, like you said, I've always wanted a Frisian. It's my dream horse. But maybe a Frisian just isn't realistic for what you're looking for, or what your skill level is. You know, Frisians can be, we have one volunteer that loves looking at the Frisian but doesn't want to handle the Frisian because it scares her. And I get that. You know, Kaya doesn't just walk slowly.
Yeah.
She prances out, and she's high-headed and high-stepping, and she's a fancy girl. But if you're not used to that high-stepping kind of fancy move, it can intimidate people.
Sure.
So make sure you're being realistic about the horse that you're looking at. And I think more than anything, take somebody with you that can give you a critical eye, that can kind of, you know, like take away the shiny and say, okay, be realistic.
Yeah.
For what you want, and go there. And I will say, from my personal experience, some of the best horses I've had have been the horses that I didn't anticipate, like the horses that I wasn't necessarily looking for.
So with that, hopefully you found this episode informational, entertaining. If there is anything you think we missed, please leave us a comment down below. And or if you have questions about anything that we talked about today, drop a comment down below. Share with us how you choose a horse, or things that you may look for. We would love to hear it, and we'd love to talk with you more about it. As always, please like and subscribe down below. Make sure that you're following all of the new content that we have. You know, we drop one of these every Wednesday, and we really appreciate everybody checking them out. And with that, we will bid you all farewell for this week. Cheers again, episode 10, and everybody stay cool. Thank you.